Hi, Michelle here with the Traveling Epicurean. Today's menu is all about pasta fagioli. It's a traditional Italian soup made with white bean, pasta, and a little bit of tomato base. It's super delicious and wicked easy to make. Let me show you what we're going to need to get started. This is what we're going to need to start off our pasta fagioli. We're going to need pancetta, carrots, onion, celery, and garlic. Some pork that I started off a tomato sauce with and froze, and then I just defrosted it. White wine, ditalini pasta, a fresh baguette, some more Reggiano, my sclafani whole peeled tomatoes, homemade chicken stock, and the cannellini beans. It's going to be absolutely delicious. Here we go. Just get right in there and do a little squishing. Just break up the tomatoes. You know, this recipe, there is no correct way or correct recipe. Every recipe is different from house to house, family to family, region to region. I was inspired with my recipe from a dear old friend Kay, who used to make amazing pasta fagioli, and she used leftover sausages from her pasta night that were still intact, and then she would break them up a little bit, and she made an incredible pasta fagioli. So that's why I'm using my leftover pork from when I made my sauce. Alright, so those are all broken up. Let's go over to the stove and get that pancetta going. So before we start sauteing the pancetta, let's take a peek back at how I started my pork in my tomato basil sauce. So I just put in a few pieces of that pork loin. I seasoned the oil with some fresh garlic. I sauteed that. I took it out. I put the pork loin in. I'm going to sear this and get it golden on each side. So look how beautiful those 3 pieces of pork loin have gotten. I've been sauteing them for about 8 minutes. They're really nice and golden. I'm going to pull them out, and then I'm going to put in the carrots and the onion and start to saute those for the sauce, and then get it in the food processor with the whole tomatoes to puree them. Looking beautiful. Look at the beautiful sauce. It's simmering there with the fresh basil and those pork loins that I sauteed. And that's been going for a couple of hours. It's that simple recipe, my tomato basil recipe, which I have you only cooking 20 minutes, but you could also cook it longer, as I'm doing here, because I like a little bit more full development. I just put our pancetta in the pan. It smells lovely. And I'm just going to saute this for a few minutes, and then I'm going to add in our veggies. That has only been going for about 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm going to add in all of our vegetables. I'm going to drizzle in a little bit of olive oil just to help it along. There's not a whole lot of fat in pancetta. There's a little bit that's rendering out, and it's just going to bring it so much flavor. So we're just going to drizzle in maybe a teaspoon of olive oil to help it along. And then I'm going to saute this just until the vegetables are softened. So I'm going to add in just 1/4 teaspoon of salt so that the liquid can render out of those vegetables and start to soften up everything. And we'll give it a smell. It's got a little steamy there. I'm going to turn it down to like a medium low and just let it sweat out a little bit. Really going to be developing some great flavors. It's all about layers of flavors, people, right? So delicious. I'm sauteing for about 6 minutes, and I'm going to deglaze with a little bit of white wine. And we're going to let that burn off. I'm going to turn it up to medium. And then we'll start adding in the rest of the goodies. Okay, so the white wine has evaporated. Now I'm going to just add in all of our goodies, and we're going to let this simmer for about a half an hour. 2 cans of the cannellini beans. I rinsed them, and we're just going to pop those in there. I'm going to put in that pork that I had left over. There's so many different variations of pasta fagioli. Many of them are meatless. Many of them start off with a pancetta. You know, they vary family to family. I don't think it's northern or southern Italy. I think they are just so different from family to family. So it's however you prefer. but they're just packed full of flavor. That's my homemade chicken broth. I'm going to put in another half a cup of white wine. And then I have my rosemary and thyme that I bundled up with some string, and that's going to flavor our stew. It's going to be so incredibly good. I'm going to put the cover on this, and we're going to let it simmer for about a half an hour, and then we're going to check up on it again. Okay, so it's been about a half an hour. I'm going to check on it. Oh, it looks beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I like the pasta fagioli a little more creamy, and we have all these goodies right in here to do that. I'm going to take these beans and I'm going to puree them right into our blender here. And I'm going to make it a little bit creamier. Without even adding cream, we're just going to puree these white beans, and then we're going to put it back into the sauce. It's just a really, really lovely way to thicken up the sauce without adding in anything extra. So I'm going to put in about 4 ladles of those beans. I'm trying to do it so I don't grab any of the meat, that wonderful pork. It's okay if you do, but I'm just trying to keep it solely so it's beans. There. Now I'm going to puree this, just like that. And then I'm going to add, we'll take a look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So sometimes when you're making soups and stews like this, we get a little bit of accumulation of some of the oils that you started off the soup with. So I'm just going to skim that off, and I'm going to take it out, just so the soup's not oily. And that's okay. It's actually good that we could do this. And now I'm going to add in those cannellini beans that I just pureed. Wait till you see how beautiful this is going to be. Really, really nice. Isn't that pretty? So I'll take some of the juice of the soup, and then I'll put it into the blender so I can get like every last drop of that gorgeous pureed cannellini beans. And we're going to give it a little bit of a stir. Isn't that pretty? It's going to be really, really good. And I love doing our bouquet like this. This way we just take it out. You don't have any big pieces of rosemary. And it flavors the sauce so nicely. So see how the texture has changed a little bit. I'm going to let this go for about 15 more minutes, and then we're going to add the pasta right into the soup. And so when the pasta cooks, it's going to release some of its starches, and it's going to get even a little bit thicker. It's going to have such a gorgeous texture. It's going to be unbelievable. Isn't that pretty? All right, so now I'm going to add in Italian pasta, and that's going to soak up and release starches into the soup, and it's going to make it really luscious and gorgeous. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this bouquet right now, because we really don't need that anymore. It's done its job, and now it can leave. And we'll let that pasta cook through. And then we'll have some soup. Really thickened up. You can actually see the pieces of pork and the pancetta and those lovely beans. It's really, really nice. And I'm going to dunk my bread. Yes, you've caught me again. Really, really good. We're going to add basil to it. Basil goes so well with tomatoes that when we put the basil in, it's going to give off a really nice perfume. And then all of that rosemary and thyme are just going to be these wonderful flavors, these undertones. Look how gorgeous that is. Simply beautiful. Alright, so now what we'll do is we're going to sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan on there. And if you want it a little bit thinner, you could always add a little bit more water, because as it starts to evaporate, you know, you're going to lose some of that liquid. And we'll drizzle some basil. These flavors are just amazing. And then what I love to do is a little drizzle of olive oil, really good olive oil. I use different olive oil for my drizzling and my salads than I do for my cooking. Isn't that pretty? Looks incredible. incredible. I cannot wait to have a bite. And then I shaved some Reggiano Parmigiano on top, of course. It's absolutely amazing. I'm excited for you to make this. I just love this dish. It's not overbearing on the tomato. I love that you can puree some of those cannellini beans and make it creamier without adding a heavy cream. You're going to love this dish. I can't wait for you to make it. You can find this recipe at thetravelingepicurean.com. Have a great day. Ciao.